You are at a World Cup watch party. That was already your first mistake. Not because you dislike people. You like people. You just did not realize this invitation came with emotional homework. The living room is packed. Someone has painted a flag on their face. Someone is wearing a jersey with the seriousness of a royal uniform. Someone has already explained the group stage to you twice, and both times your brain gently left the conversation and went somewhere peaceful. The World Cup is on. Everyone is standing. You are holding a plate of food, trying to look involved. The ball goes out for a corner, and suddenly the entire room changes temperature. People lean forward. Someone grips the sofa. Someone whispers, "This is it." And you are standing there thinking, is it? Because to you, it looks like a man is about to kick a ball from the corner of a field. To everyone else, apparently, a nation's emotional future is being prepared near a tiny flag. You try. You really do. You look at the screen. You copy the concerned face. You nod when someone says, "We need to be careful here," even though you personally need to be careful not to spill dip on your shirt. Then everyone gasps. You gasp too, a little late, very unconvincing, and someone turns to you and says, "You don't care, do you?" Beautiful. The World Cup has not only become a sporting event, it has become a personality test you did not study for. If that felt familiar, stay with me, because not caring about the World Cup is not always about being cold, superior, or impossible to impress. Sometimes it is the strange experience of being surrounded by a huge shared emotion and realizing yours did not get the invitation. Let's start with the part people often miss. Not caring about the World Cup does not mean you hate fun. It does not mean you dislike your country. It does not mean you are secretly judging everyone for shouting at a television, although, respectfully, some of the shouting does raise questions. Most of the time, you are not trying to ruin the mood, you're just not inside the mood. You're standing near it, holding a plate, trying to look respectful. That is different. You can enjoy the food, you can like the people, you can understand that the World Cup matters to them, and still, some honest little part of you is thinking, I hope nobody asks me to react correctly. Because when everyone else is emotionally synced, not feeling the same thing can become its own kind of pressure. You're not refusing connection, you're just not faking a feeling your body never sent. So why does the feeling sometimes disappear the second everyone expects you to have it? There is a concept called psychological reactance. It describes what can happen when your sense of choice starts to feel pressured. Plain language version, when people feel pushed to care, agree, join in, or respond a certain way, part of the mind may push back to protect its freedom. Psychologist Jack Brem introduced this idea to explain how people react when their freedom to choose feels limited. And the World Cup can create a surprisingly specific version of this. Not because anyone is trying to control you in a serious way, it's smaller than that. Someone says, "Come on, you have to watch this." Someone says, "How can you not care?" Someone says, "This is history." And your brain quietly says, "Do I though?" The more the room insists that this moment should matter to you, the more aware you become that the feeling isn't arriving. It's like being told to relax, helpful in theory, a disaster in practice. Because emotion doesn't usually respond well to commands, especially not commands coming from someone wearing a scarf indoors. So the issue is not that you're against the World Cup. Sometimes the pressure to care makes your brain step back and protect the one thing it still controls, your actual reaction. Let's move one step closer, because the group is only one part of it. And the stranger part is what happens inside you while everyone else gets swept up. You look around the room, everyone is leaning forward, everyone seems to know when to gasp, everyone seems to understand why this corner kick has suddenly changed the emotional weather. And you are standing there with your snack plate, trying to decide if your face should look tense
hopeful, or politely concerned. That is where the second piece comes in. There's a concept called need for uniqueness. Simple version, people differ in how much they want to feel separate, original, or not absorbed into the crowd. Psychologists Snyder and Fromkin studied this need to feel distinct from others, not in a dramatic way, but as a basic part of how some people hold on to their sense of self. And during the World Cup, the crowd can become very loud, not only in volume, in feeling. Everyone is saying we, everyone is wearing the colors, everyone is reacting at the same time. Everyone seems to know where to put their hands during a penalty. And you are there with your food, suddenly very aware that you are not melting into the group. Not because you need to be special, because you need your reaction to be yours. Why does that matter? Because group emotion can feel wonderful when you are inside it, but when you are outside it, it can feel like a dance where everyone learned the steps except you. So you do a little social math. How excited do I need to look? Was that a good moment or a bad moment? Is this the part where we clap? Can I ask what offside is, or will that damage the atmosphere? And then your body chooses the safest option, a polite half smile, a strategic sip of your drink, a very convincing nod at absolutely nothing. Not because you are fake, because you are trying to survive a room where everyone else has become fluent in a language you only sort of understand. Let's appreciate the quiet skill of pretending to follow sports, because it is an art. Someone says, "That was a beautiful pass," and you say, "Yeah," confident, mysterious, no further comments. Someone says, "The referee missed that," and you frown at the screen like you have been personally disappointed by referees for years. Someone asks, "Did you see that run?" You did not. You were looking at the snacks. But now you have to decide whether to admit that or become a football analyst for 3 seconds. So you say, "The movement was good," which means nothing, but it sounds like something. Honestly, impressive. And then comes the real test. A goal almost happens. Everyone screams. You stand up because the room stood up. You do not know what happened, but socially, remaining seated feels unsafe. So now you are standing, holding a paper plate, surrounded by people in full emotional emergency, hoping your face is doing whatever the group is doing. This is not sports fandom. This is theater. And somehow you've been cast as person who understands the match. No rehearsal, no notes, just vibes. This is the softer part of not caring about the World Cup. Sometimes the distance is not about football at all. It's about belonging to a room without having to copy the room. Maybe you've always been the person who feels a step outside big shared rituals, school spirit, group chants, national holidays, sports finals, the moments where everyone else seems to receive the same emotional signal at the same time. And you are not against it, you're just not wired to enter a feeling because the group has entered it. Does that sound familiar? Maybe you need your interests to come from the inside. Maybe you don't like being pulled into excitement on demand. Maybe you enjoy things more when nobody is standing beside you saying, "Isn't this amazing?" Because suddenly, the moment is not just a moment, it's an expectation. And for some people, expectation makes interest disappear. That doesn't make your reaction better than anyone else's. It also doesn't make it worse. It just means your emotional timing is different. The person crying at the anthem is not necessarily overdoing it, and the person quietly eating chips during extra time is not necessarily missing the point. They may just be living a different point. Because the World Cup can mean memory, pride, family, history, noise, belonging, pressure, or absolutely nothing in particular, and all of those can be true in the same room. You don't have to borrow the group's feeling to be allowed to sit with them. If this made you think, okay, maybe I'm that person at the watch party, you're in very good company. Tell me in the comments where you are on the World Cup spectrum: the person fully invested, the person who only appears for snacks, the person asking sincere questions at the worst possible moment, or the one quietly wondering, am I supposed to feel something right now? Because there's something genuinely comforting in realizing that while half the room is emotionally attached to the score, someone else is doing the exact same quiet math you are. This channel is where we talk about human behavior in a way that feels easy to recognize, lightly funny, and a little too familiar. And if you want more conversations like this, the kind that help you understand yourself without making it sound complicated, subscribe. Do it whenever it feels right, preferably not during a penalty. See you in the next one.
Under the sun, across the lands, every nation joining hands, feet on the pitch, hearts aligned, chasing dreams.